Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday Morning Blitz. Not for an NFL week anymore, for NFL wildcard weekend and looking ahead to divisional round. It is I, Jackson Roberts. It is he, Kale Clinton. We got a lot of ball to talk, Kale. Catching up with you all on this Wednesday. Thank you for making your schedules work. We are going to talk some serious playoff football today. 2 rounds in one. Review the last round, briefly preview the next one, and just dive on in because we are knee deep in the playoffs and it feels phenomenal. Kale, reflections on first round of playoff football.
Jackson, it's kind of a dud. It's kind of a dud weekend. 5 blowouts and the most pride-driven, in the moment, gotta feel good game you've ever had. That even in that moment felt like a bit of maybe it's just because there was no scoring in the second half of that game. In totality, all the games are kind of Lions Rams was sick. I'm not going to poo-poo that too much, but
I would hope you would not. And that game's third in our rundown, but I can't wait to get to it because boy was it exciting. We'll go through the games in reverse order. A lot's happened in the 2 days since the playoffs have ended. We can discuss, any number of things, from Bill Belichick interviewing with the Falcons. Jason Kelce may be retiring. I still think he is retiring, but he officially said he has not made that decision yet today.
We are so far removed that we have not touched on the Belichick dismissal.
That's true. We had not.
We are a long way into the cycle at this point.
It's true. We recorded the day before that news was announced that he wouldn't return, and now the Patriots have a new head coach. Guess what? We're both Patriots fans. We could dissect that from any number of angles. Not to blow up the pod outline here, Kale, but just brief 15, 30-second reflection on Gerard Mayo, Patriots' new head coach.
I'm pumped. Press conference was good. Dude, Kraft sounds old. Kraft sounds really old. That was tough. It was very refreshing to listen to Mayo kind of talk. I like that he kind of recognizes that he's not Belichick in a good way. I like that he's directly addressing, in a positive way, changing the culture, lightening the mood a bit. He's talking about attacking super important position, a very important position, best available in the draft, which either means they're, I see this as no in between, going up to get a quarterback or taking Marvin Harrison. I'm coming around to them just taking MHJ.
And I was there, but then I'm like, who's throwing to him versus could you just go get Evans or even Michael Pittman in free agency? So I've swung back and forth on the pendulum about that about 19 different times, and I'm not even sure where the pendulum's at right now.
I threw this in our group. We got to abridge Patriots talk because there is a lot more news to get into.
Allegedly.
I keep getting into mocks on PFF and playing chicken to see how long it takes me to get a good quarterback and also rebuild the Patriots roster. And the thing that I keep doing is going Marvin Harrison 3, getting a Keon Coleman, a Emeka Egbuka, getting Jalen McMillan to fall all the way to the 3rd. So I'm getting 3 receivers off rip. And then 4th round going Jalen Milroe. Or
am I mistaken, or are both Egbuka and Milroe both going back to college next year?
Is Milroe going back?
Milroe definitely is. I thought I heard Egbuka was, but maybe he's not. One of the Ohio State receivers is.
They haven't put it in the PFF thing yet.
As long as they let me keep drafting him, I'm drafting him.
He will come back. I just looked it up. That makes me sad. He's going to be top. That's good money for him, actually.
Easy good money. Caleb Williams declared. That was other news this week. Harbaugh interviewing with the Chargers, yada, yada, yada.
And Falcons. A lot of teams interviewing with the Falcons.
Which, by the way, have you ever seen a team like post a tweet about, hey, we just interviewed this head coach for the picture? Like, I'm sure it's happened before, but that was weird to me.
They've been taught, they've done, I think it's a new thing where teams, I don't know if it's part of Rooney Rule to like go over full transparency or what it is, but teams are now doing more like, we have completed interview with XYZ. We have requested to interview ABC. The Belichick graphic is really funny.
Very.
I think the Chargers also, or no, I forget if it was the Chargers or if the Falcons interviewed someone from the Chargers. But someone posted a graphic for a GM interview, and it was just a guy in a suit on the field. Like, it was just like pictured.
What else is he gonna be?
Like in the booth, like in the lab making decisions. I don't know. You gotta do something here.
Many good tweets to come, I'm sure, from all these processes. But seeing as we have no other head coaching hires to discuss at this point, I suppose we could simply talk about the playoff football that went down. And we'll do that in reverse chronological order. And we'll do it by beginning with, I guess, an autopsy on what the heck happened to the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles. 10-1. None of the DVOA or EPA per play metrics said they were that good, but 10-1, they then lose 6 out of 7. Their season's over. They get embarrassed in Tampa by a 9-8 division champ, 32-9. And Jason Kelce appears to be retiring, and they have a bunch of other either aging or departing or just outright bad veteran players on that team whose futures are completely uncertain. So I'll let you lead off here, but not only what went wrong, but what's up next for these Philadelphia Eagles?
It's pretty dire. You knew it was bad when AJ Brown was putting together emergency escape room motivational team meetings. I think my assessment's been the cupboard kind of got run too bare, and the Eagles never really replenished. Running with Brian Johnson and Sean Desai, I don't think was a total mistake. But running with first-time play callers at both positions and a thin group offensively that got even thinner when one, AJ Brown went down, but two, the Eagles just stopped running inexplicably toward the end of the year. Rushing attempts way down during that losing stretch, and I'm not really sure why. And on the defensive side, just a really young group. I'd kind of assessed in the preseason, this team had 8,000 snaps worth of players and hit free agency, and guys like Javon Hargrave and Kazir White and the other linebacker who's escaping me is TJ Edwards. The other guy that went to the Bears for huge money, or am I thinking Charles Edmonds? They lost 2 linebackers. Don't care. And CJ Gardner-Johnson also walked. They just had a ton of guys hit free agency. And in the grand scheme of looking at it, you've got guys you drafted already coming in, Nakobe Dean. You've got guys in development that are kind of ready to just slide up, and they weren't. Losing major players is tough. And then just by the end of the season, they looked pretty broken. Like, they were still a talented team, but it was like, not to jump ahead, it's the same thing with the Cowboys, where it's just like, when you've got the stink on you, it's bad. Like, the Cowboys lost that game 2 drives in. The Eagles were DOA the second they got to the playoffs, just because they had dropped so many tough games in a row. The second you lose to the Giants, your season's over. The second that Week 18 game rolls around, it's bad.
And if they weren't dead already, the first couple drives when they put together like an 11-play highlight reel of missed tackles on Bucs ball carriers, that was the end too. They can't tackle at all.
Yeah, it's bad.
The tweets I saw about James Bradbury, cover the guy and stick him on the sideline. People were going in, and for good reason. The other thing about the Eagles, this analysis I saw, someone on some Ringer platform. I can't remember which one, so apologies there. But one of the analysis about, Philly's defense is all these Georgia guys. They come in and they're not used to playing like 60, 70 snaps in a game. And all of a sudden, like you get to like the second, third, quarter of the season, they start to kind of wear down a little bit. So your Jalen Carters, your Jordan Davises, your Deans, like all these guys just kind of, I'm really interested to see how they develop in the future, because I don't think this will necessarily always be the case, but they sort of just wore down as the season went on. And when your young legs are wearing down, it's not a good sign when your older legs are, being left to pick up the slack. So yeah, obviously the defense went way downhill for them as the entire season went along. And I think the offense lost a lot of its luster too. And now, is Sirianni coming back? I don't necessarily think he deserves to be gone, but whether or not he deserves it and whether or not he's coming back are two different things.
The elder statesmen of the Eagles, Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce, stepping up to speak highly of Sirianni does a lot for me. It is very important to me that they did that. And I think that will bode well for the Eagles going forward. That being said, like, there are some obvious deficits. If Jason Kelce is retiring, he kind of said today where he was like, you can't make that decision in the moment, and didn't 100% refute reports, but was very nebulous on the New Heights podcast. But if he is retiring, you got a huge hole to replace at center. He was fourth among all offensive linemen in blown block rate at 1.1%, minimum 500 snaps. And you also have him running the hardest play on an individual lineman ever in the tush push. That's a big hole to fill. You basically can't run the tush push anymore if you can't address center.
Yeah. Well, maybe nobody will be able to run it next year.
No,
anyway. Who knows?
Yeah, but it's true. I don't think they're going to get rid of it. I think they're collapsed at the end of the year. And honestly, like early game ball laces to Vita Vea. I gave one to Jack Del Rio for stopping it in Washington. Vita Vea gets one for stopping one single-handedly, even if he's going to the head there.
Not to mention he did it earlier this season too. I think he was stopped 3 times all year, and 2 of them were Vita Vea. So not bad.
But yeah, Eagles going forward, if we're doing autopsy, just have a good amount of learning to do on the defensive end and a good amount of holes to fill and like depth to build up, because running backs didn't look as effective. You can't go too deep at receiver. Like if AJ Brown goes down or Devonta Smith goes down, your 3 can't be Olamide Zaccheaus. And I'm a guy who's like the Zacchaeuses and the Demir Birds of the world. Demir Bird just made like the Texans practice squad because they're thin. Hell yeah. But I'm the guy who's like my wide receiver rant from years gone by at this point is like you need to be deep. You need to be 3-4 deep at receiver. You need to be versatile. You need to have guys who have different strength, can do different route trees, you need as holistic a group as possible. And you need guys like an Olamide Zaccheaus. You can't rely on guys like an Olamide Zaccheaus. You can't in crunch time, if you've got to go in 11 personnel, he can't be your 3. You've got to have someone else there.
I agree. The way they invest resources this offseason is going to be very interesting to watch because, like you said, they have a lot of holes on both sides of the ball, and they obviously, not that this is without just cause, but are a little bit hamstrung by the Hurts contract. So seeing how they, supplement both the offensive skill positions and just kind of the entire spine of their defense and address center, which is not an unimportant position. And I know they have a guy who's been in house for a while who Kelsey's been grooming to be his replacement. But who knows if they trust that or if they try to go out and get another guy. We'll see. I'm not completely down and out on this team because I think Hurts was playing injured for 2/3 of the season.
Finger injury, a bunch of stuff we probably haven't heard about yet.
Right. When somebody is capable of being semi-transcendent at the quarterback position, it can cover up a lot of holes. But obviously you felt better about them, in years gone by than you do right now. But briefly before moving on to the next matchup,
hey,
Bucs.
Briefly before moving on to that next matchup, Mike McCarthy's gone. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it just happened. That's great.
No, opposite. Misread.
He's not gone.
Dallas is not making a head coaching change, and Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy is returning. Sorry for the mini roller coaster. We can continue.
That would have been what I predicted was going to happen. I think somebody's going to win head coach who probably should have been fired but wasn't for either a second or maybe even third time on the TMB awards this offseason. I think that that award is coming. So congratulations in advance to Mike McCarthy.
Yes. Let's go to the other side of this, though. I didn't mean to cut you off with a fake news dump.
Well, if it was fired, I would have said let's spend 5-10 minutes on it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them later. But yeah, the Bucs won. Baker Mayfield kind of balling. I mean, I know the Eagles were pretty bad, but this is a pretty big vindication, not only for Baker, but just, an organization that we did not pick in our wins draft. One of the 2 teams that we thought would be the worst in the league this season now are one of the 8 teams still playing football in mid-January.
I get it. I ultimately get why I doubted them. I was listening to, I forget the actual Ringer feed show that has Solak and Kapaja on it. But looking back, no one saw this coming. And not just let's save our own hide. They were making bets on whether Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask was going to start by the end of the season for this Buccaneers team.
Todd Bowles was odds-on first coach fired favorite.
Yeah. Well, this was an everyone doubted you kind of team. And what it ended up being was Antoine Winfield gets an all-pro season. Mike Evans gets another 1,000-yard season. Canales is going to get head coaching interviews. About as good of a season as you could have had. And there's some things we should have expected that we've eaten crow on this and said that we should have recognized that this defense was as good as it was. We should have recognized the team with Evans and Godwin is still going to be very good. We should have recognized a little bit of the regression on the Rachaad White thing. What we didn't recognize was Baker can still be kind of a baller. I made jokes about Baker being a showman and just balling when the lights are bright, but there are legit some good throws there. There some big drops by Otten. One of them tight, one of them not really tight at all, and just kind of a drop that would have gone.
I don't get the whole tight end not wearing gloves thing. It's 2024. What are we doing here? 3 drops in the first half. Put some friggin' gloves on.
But you get into this, Jackson. Baker Mayfield's a free agent. What will you pay him? Because it's how do you handle this situation now? Because he's not long-term good. He's not you can't give him Solak was saying you can't justify giving him the Jimmy G deal, which is $2 or $375, but you make it a $2 million 25 APY deal. That's a little tough. If you make it incentive laden, maybe you can do 25, but it's
if you can get him to take that. But I don't disagree. I mean, what the Geno Smith contract seems perfect, but can you convince him to take that either? I think it's tough.
Isn't Geno getting 40?
2 for 40, if I'm not.
Oh, is it 20 mil? I thought it was a 40 APY.
No, maybe 25. But the whole point was that was kind of the perfect contract, I think, for your revived starter who you think can do it again, but it's not like you're 100% certain, as the Seahawks weren't with Geno. I'm glad we're not venturing into Daniel Jones territory. I hope no team ever makes that particular mistake again. And I think, he's going to get somewhere between 40 and 70, 2 to 3 years. And I'd be surprised if it settles at the high end of that, but teams are desperate, so you never know.
Yeah, I don't think I'm curious on what the market is for him in the offseason, but the Bucs are just kind of in not to ride this out as much as you can, be a part of the crew, get on the pirate ship, whatever you want. But the Bucs are kind of in no man's land now. Like if Canales and Evans both leave and they run this back with Baker, they're not doing anything. But
Yeah, we
the
said they
Saints
were
are
toast
also
this
running.
year, but
The Saints are also running it back, so I don't know what the hell the NFC South is going to be.
hey, all I know is it was real ball. NFC South ball and AFC South. Both those teams win. Both the NFC East teams are out. South football was real ball, and we were just too cowardly to note it during the regular season. Vindicated.
Gardner Minshew almost won a division. That's crazy.
Real ball. Now, Bills take care of business. I don't think they made it look as pretty as perhaps the Nolan Hughes of the world wanted it to, but it was still very cold, even if it wasn't the Arctic tundra that we thought they were initially going to play in. And they certainly, they take a big lead early. They kind of fall apart late, end up winning by 2 touchdowns still. Terrell Bernard getting hurt really stings in the middle of all that. But the Bills are moving on, and they get to host the Chiefs, which we know is the game the NFL has been hoping would happen for 2 years now. So is all well in Bills land, or how is the the mood of Bills Mafia heading into this crucial rematch in the playoffs?
Well, first off, the Bernard could be good.
I hope.
It's kind of crazy, but Bernard had apparently, according to McDermott, said even though he got carted off, he's day to day. Not quite day to day, but could play in this game, which would be huge because then it comes down to AJ Klein and I don't even know who's behind him. But they even lost I'm looking at the injury report now that Balin Spector went out with a back injury. He wasn't a guy I even had in the almanac, so that's deep. That's deep injuries at linebacker post Milano. But they had in that game Bernard go out with an ankle injury. Sam Martin, the punter, they picked up a new punter today. He's out with a hamstring injury. Christian Benford's out with a knee injury. Teron Johnson's in concussion protocol. And
you already had Rasul Douglas and Taylor Rapp out.
And Gabe Davis and Tyrell Dodson. So they're at their the lowest they are at linebacker. Not sure which position, but in some capacity they are at linebacker 5 and 6. I'm not sure where they necessarily fall in the depth chart, but they're in some order. 4 linebackers in their top 6 are just out in some capacity or injured. But big problem if one of those secondary guys, Benford, Douglas, and Rapp, can come back, huge difference maker. Kansas City Chiefs offense, interestingly enough, actually better on the road, which is surprising. They haven't been as good this year at Arrowhead, and home road splits kind of shake out weird. But Schatz was doing DVOA home road split projections, and Kansas City ended up kind of being a fascinating team in that regard because they're way worse on the road defensively. But they're it goes from, I think, 14th to 6th. I'm trying to scroll quickly and find it. They take a big jump offensively on the road. So it'll be a really interesting shakeout considering how banged up this Bills D is. But we also can't stress enough. First road game in Mahomes history.
Seriously. We just don't know.
Road playoff game, sorry.
No, he's never gone on the road. He's played every single game in his career at home. Don't listen. I almost think it could be good for them. I do. I think, obviously that's a tough place to play, but I don't know, something about it kind of makes me feel okay, they've been in kind of this lull this season and, we're worried about is the offense capable of being as explosive? I think they they woke up a little bit in this game. It's tough to say much with, the weather the way it was. And obviously they settled for way too many field goals. But I mean, Rashee Rice was really, really, really good. And you combine that with okay, Kelsey had several drops, but seemed to be getting open. It's playoff Travis Kelsey. You can never rule anything out. If they woke up the offense a little bit and they get a little added motivation from having to be on the road for the first time, I think there's very much a formula here. And it's also, I mean, it's Bills Chiefs in the playoffs. The tortured history here, and tortured histories are tortured for a reason. They're pretty tough to flip the script and right what once went wrong in the case of Buffalo. And we all know what that wrong was.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we have any Chiefs in the game ball conversation. Rashee Rice is getting 12 to 15 targets the rest of the way. He is the only functional receiver on this roster. Did you look at the box score for that game by chance?
I
know
did at the time. I can pull it up again.
I know it was cold. I've got it here. Rashee Rice and Travis Kelsey combined for 22 of the 34 targets for Kansas City. The next highest person was Mecole Hardman with 3.
Yeah.
They don't trust. I know Tony and Sky Moore were both out this game, but they don't trust anyone else.
You don't trust those guys, that's for sure. You did have 6 guys with 1 catch each. That's kind of legendary. Yeah, I mean, why should they throw it to anyone else? It works.
It does work.
The Bills might have 5 guys they're comfortable throwing to in that way in this game, not to mention Cook coming out of the backfield. So it's a pretty obvious advantage when you have, Kincaid gets his playoff debut touchdown. Shakir gets his first playoff touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. Weird second half of the season for Stephon Diggs. I'm still bookmarking that one. Not putting up anywhere near Stephon Diggs stat lines ever. So interested to see if he wakes up for this big one or if he continues to do his 7 for 51 like he's been doing the last 6 weeks or so.
I just don't hate the Bills spreading it out. Josh Allen being a more engaged runner, all about. James Cook getting 20 touches a game, all about. Deontay Hardy and Khalil Shakir and just all those guys getting more touches, all about that. Dalton Kincaid getting more involved, so in. And if Gabe Davis could just be your wind sprinter, we're cooking. I think, Diggs is going to be awesome. Diggs will have his moments. But I think it's more important to get all the rest of the gang in there. I think it's more important to get everyone else involved than it is to just have, a Diggs party going. Because the better Diggs is doing, the more attention he draws and, the harder it is to work the ball to him. So you got to get it to everyone else. But now if you're worried about everyone else, you're getting more base looks. You're getting less doubles. You're getting more or less, press coverages at the line with a guy overhead. You're going to get opportunities to then get Diggs the ball. And I don't think, Kansas City's not going to be the team to sleep on Diggs. But you might get a player or two where they're or Spags just isn't accounting for it, or it's just a pure numbers thing. And then he's cooking.
What are the odds that Stephon Diggs is still on the Bills next year if they win this game versus what are the odds that Stephon Diggs is still on the Bills if they lose this game?
I don't know.
I think the split is big.
I think the split's big, but I don't know how bad it's gotten. He's about to get – thing is, he's got a crazy trade kicker. Or not a trade kicker like it's NBA, but they take a $3.2 million cap hit if they trade him before June 1, and it's $31 million it's $31 million in money that they're I don't know if it's a $31 million dead cap hit with a trade. I don't know if you do dead cap hits or if it's a transfer money. But he jumps from making 14 mil this year, 14.8 to 27.8. Like it's a huge jump to a top 3 wide receiver contract in APY. Yeah. Like the second you're making 26, 27 mil, it's Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill are the only guys making above 25 mil, the baseline of AJ Brown. So he's like officially a top 3 receiver. And you kind of need him. Like, I know there's some weird stuff going on with the Bills where there's like always some tinge of drama between Allen and Diggs, but like set that aside, you need this guy. Like you need Diggs at wide receiver 1 to work out because the other, like you've never really dedicated too much draft resource to replacing him, and you know you got as good a time of any as this year's draft to do it. But like I don't know, this is your window. You're one of the older teams in football. McDermott's in it for the long haul. Bean's in it for the long haul. Allen's here for the long haul. Just lock it in. Like make sure you have Diggs. I don't even want to justify a world where if they blow this game in some dramatic fashion. I know you've got, I forget if it was Trey or Quandre tweeting about like get my brother out of there, like free Stephon. But like you've got to work that out.
You've got to until he says he's gone. That's that's the. If it truly can't be recovered, I'm not going to pretend to know all of the deep dive internet stuff that Nolan, I'm sure, has uncovered by now about whatever, fractures there have been historically in the Diggs-Allen relationship. But
Noel and I have talked extensively about it.
I don't doubt that. And I don't doubt that some of it is also somewhat inappropriate for podcast medium. But I just think like there's a much greater chance that he like tries to force his way out if they lose this game. And that's kind of what I'm morbidly curious about. And I'm not saying that, you're wrong about needing him. But there is an alternative world where, if he really does force his way out, you can trade him and use whatever trade capital you get back to find his replacement in this draft. So I'm just not ruling it out at this point. Moving on, because I don't want to talk about the Steelers yet. I will talk about the Steelers, but just not yet. The game that I think, in our hearts was first this weekend, not just because of the result, but because it was just good ball. And I want to talk about it. Lions, Rams, all the storylines coming in, all of them play out. Storybook ending, people crying in the stands in Detroit. And Jared Goff, you're good enough for effing Detroit, man. Game ball. Not really game ball, but he got it in real life.
We are kind of giving game balls out by game. Like we have game balls for
it's true.
On the week, but like,
have we done a game that had one yet? I don't think we have. No. They're gonna start coming out.
We've just been giving out the motivational ones. Yeah. It was a really rewarding game. Like I would say Stafford is better than Goff. I don't think that's too controversial, but it was really impressive to see the entire rest of that team come together and that the Lions are just better. Like I'm glad that the Lions proved they are better than the Rams because the Rams are hot. They've got Aaron Donald. They've got, one of the more explosive young receiver running back duos in the league. Sure. Losing Tyler Higbee is crazy. But like just 53-man roster. Detroit's a special team. Detroit is unlike anything else in the league, completely homegrown. That defense of Brian Branch, Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, Jack Campbell, all draft guys, or you get into the Alex Angelonis and CJ Gardner-Johnsons of the world where it's just not necessarily veteran reclamations. In Anzaloni's case, I think it is a reclamation. I think making him one of the better just all-around linebackers in the league, just a pure toolsy guy, I think is a pure reclamation picking him up from the Dolphins. But just making savvy moves in free agency and rounding out that core as best you can, I think is super important. And it's really nice to see it all come together and properly get rewarded. I think that was a big thing.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things where we've been on this for so long. We've been on the Dan Campbell good vibes, Detroit, they're bad now, but watch out for them in the future. And I think it's rare in sports that you see the whole thing kind of come together exactly as you hope it does. And last year they start 1-5, and we're all hitting the panic button. We're starting to talk about like, hey, how much leash does Dan Campbell have here? We're not gonna get fired now, but like this can't continue. And then they close the year the way they do, and they win that game in week 18 where they just found out they got eliminated from the playoffs, and they're just playing for pride and to eliminate the Packers, and they do it, and we're all so excited, and the hype train is building for this upcoming season. But it's one thing for the hype train to go. It's another thing for them to actually do it. And they come out and they beat the Chiefs on opening night, and they storm to a division title. And even when they have some letdowns here and there, they seem to just keep bouncing back. And yet I still think all of it pales in comparison to this night, this game, winning their first playoff game in 32 years. I mean, we're talking that stadium's been around our entire lives pretty much. Maybe not all of it, but like definitely since we were young kids, and nobody had ever seen a playoff game, let alone win in that stadium. So just like the authenticity of all these people just crying in Detroit in the crowd when the game is ending, it was perfect. I mean, it was one of those moments where you just, thank the Lord above that you're a sports fan, because you don't get stuff like that in many other walks of life.
No, you don't. I don't know if we've spoken about it on this pod, but like I've brought it up to you and Nolan before that this, like, sports are the greatest venue for nonfiction storytelling and are the last real bastion of like, folklore style storytelling that we get in real life. I think it's a genuinely important part of like American mythos, and like, which is a crazy thing. It's like, this is I'm getting too deep and don't want to get into like this country has like very little culture, and the fact that like we've got to rely on our major like storytelling and like folk heroes as sports figures is very interesting. But it's just so cool to see. It's just so cool that like a true underdog story in every facet of like Campbell's a meathead, but like is actually one of the bigger analytics minds in the league. And everyone doubts him because people made South Park memes about him when he was an interim coach with the Dolphins, but he's actually like one of the all around like great guys and best coaches in the league who truly cares about his players. Jared Goff is a complete total write-off from the Los Angeles Rams and needs and like it's pretty much a cast off in Detroit, and has while limited become one of the 10 most productive quarterbacks in football. Amon-Ra Brown keeps naming every they can still name every wide receiver drafted before him, and just got named to an all-pro team. Like,
and just dyed his hair blue, which is fun.
Wherever you look on this team, you can even, if you really want to, get picky with it, like Hutchinson got slighted by the Jaguars for taking Trayvon Walker.
Yeah, his arms are too short, didn't you hear?
Yeah, and like whatever the hell you want to come up with, like there are underdog stories abound on this team, and the fact that they all culminate in this whole city where that's just been beaten down by like, market crash after market crash, like death of industry in America, the 2008 auto and housing crisis. I don't bring this up to like just get more existential. Dan Campbell's brought up these things, like talked about how hard the city has just been kicked and beaten down, and how Campbell wanted to embody that and really recognize and understand that and bring that, not just this team success, but bring the city joy. Like, bring the city something to root for. It is truly uplifting. It is, if Disney made a movie about it, if Mike Lupica wrote a kid's book about it, it would be too cliche. But there's just all these different facets and all these different, like, straight up literary elements that are so awesome. And it makes the whole thing, like, that much more rewarding. It's so cool.
Yeah, I have enjoyed the I don't know how it came out of the woodwork, but the internet meme that was like, if you read Mike Lupica growing up, like, you grew up to know ball. I don't know how that came about, but
I was thinking about Heat. I was thinking about Heat and Travel Team.
Oh yeah, Travel Team, Summer Ball. What's the other baseball one? I think I'm the only one who read that other baseball one.
Heat's the other baseball one.
No, there was like
what's the one at the Yankee Stadium? Is that Travel Team?
Is it Yankee Stadium is Heat. Travel Team is the, like, original one about the kid who's too small and plays travel basketball. But then there's another baseball one about, like, a kid who plays, like, summer collegiate level baseball that I also read. So the discography, which definitely bibliography, because there is a word for that, goes quite deep. I mean, I've watched last thing on the Lions. I've watched that locker room video. I didn't even.
I'm now just looking through Mike Lupica books, and I forgot he took over for Robert Parker. That's kind of a sick.
Yeah. Last thing on the Lions, just because I've watched it so many times. The locker room video, which are always great with them, when he gives the literal game balls to Brad Holmes, who's another underdog story you could mention, minority GM in the NFL who started his professional life as an enterprise rent-a-car manager, like me, small side note, and then started out in PR with the Atlanta Hawks and is now a playoff winning GM in the NFL. So him getting a game ball, how emotional he was, and then Jared Goff getting his game ball, who has embraced Detroit like I don't think people expected at the time of the trade. California kid playing in California, got the big contract, and then the team just gave up on him. Like, the way both those guys have just become ingrained as a part of the city's culture has been awesome, and that video is the coolest thing I saw all week. So Lions win. They also are 6.5-point favorites and are playing at home again in the second round. So it's no longer, the cute, let's get their first playoff win underdog story. Now there's pressure, and now they can smell a title game berth. So I'm excited for that one too, because I want to see how they respond to that, and they obviously have a great chance to get to that title game.
How have you never given an enterprise rent-a-car story? Was it just that dull of a job that there's nothing good to tell about it? How am I just hearing that you worked at enterprise rent-a-car?
Well, it was only for 4 months. It's a very complex time in my life where I was coming back from playing baseball in Europe and was looking for, like, part-time seasonal employment so I could go back and play in Europe again for one more year. And then it turns out I had a wrist injury that was way worse than I initially thought and needed to get surgery on, and was still looking into going back to Europe the following season when COVID hit, and that was just totally negated as a possibility. So it was only a 4-month foray at Enterprise, long story short, because COVID hit. And no, there are plenty of stories you could tell from terrible customer interactions at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. People are really awful to other people, especially in the service industry. And something about a car as opposed to, like, a plate of food is like people somehow think that they're like the same thing, and that they have this, like, preordained right to get exactly the car they reserve at exactly the right time. And if it doesn't happen, it's completely your fault, and it gets really, really messy. So that's on working at Enterprise. It's hard, and people are mean.
I can imagine, and I'm glad that you and Brad Holmes were able to get out of that.
I concur. I guess that leads us to talking about the Cowboys. There's no segue there whatsoever.
Did we just skip? Like, do we want any on the Rams? Because it's just a weird.
Are you a head scratcher about the Rams?
Well, yeah, we'll save that.
Yeah, I mean, Puka Nacua was awesome, like really awesome, and he's been really awesome for a while. And
what's up with Cooper Kupp?
I don't know.
What's up with Cooper Kupp?
Is he the red zone stuff? I don't know how injured he was all season, but didn't look right at all for most of the year.
I don't want to put a wash label on him, but he's the 4th highest paid receiver once this Diggs deal kicks in. And it's just a problem. Like, you just can't be that high paid and that bad. It's kind of crazy to me the Rams just have no succession plan. With Stafford being, I'm not saying he's Flacco's age, but like he's getting up there, and he's flirted with retirement before. Rams are just in such a weird spot, man.
Well, we were talking about them being bad this year and, complete rebuild on the horizon. And then they start off pretty mediocre and end up turning into a good team as the season rolls on. And I think we would say that, even out of the 6 eliminated teams, like they went out the best. And, if there was any team we wish we could find an extra spot for, like I would be open to taking the Bucs out and putting the Rams in this next round. But, that's not how sports work. But like if the move is just run it back again, like I could see them being in this same position next year, a wild card team you don't want to see, or I could see them stinking. And a lot of it depends on the health of a guy who's had health problems. So again, really interested to just see how that progresses, because I definitely don't think there's like a complete rebuild on their horizon, especially not this offseason.
Well, the thing is, the rebuild kind of happened. Like
a little bit.
Not fully. Like the defense was still pretty mediocre, and like they had some reclamation projects. I'm trying to pull up this video from Brett Coleman's podcast because there was the title of their Rams preview this summer was like, yes, you're reading this right. The Rams have 38 rookies on their roster. Like it's some crazy stat. Let me see if I can find it, because my computer's loading very slowly. But like, long story short, the Rams kind of had like them hitting on Puka Nacua is a big deal. Like them getting that ball rolling is huge. The rest of it is just like having Kyron Williams become one of the more explosive backs. Okay, yeah. The title is the Rams. The Rams have 36 rookies on their roster. Yes, seriously. So like they have a crap ton of youth talent, and some of those guys hit. I didn't watch enough Rams defense beyond like general exposure to know that Aaron Donald is still getting doubled. Like I don't know Rams rookies, defensive people that well, but like there's still a lot of work to do there. But like they've got a baseline at this point of like, this is a class that we can either work with and mold, or we're volume shooting and we're going to continue volume shooting. It's tough to say either way, but like, I don't think Stetson Bennett's going to be starting for this team. Kind of
No, but it's nice to have their draft. It's nice to have their picks. I think, this is literally the first time this upcoming season that they'll have like not only their full cabinet of picks, but just a first round pick in general. And that's quite exciting to see what they might be able to build out of that. But as you also mentioned, like they have no backup plan to Matthew Stafford. So either draft that guy now, or it's going to be like, your classic, free agent retool in a couple of years. But I am interested to see what like this, not this time next year, but like heading into the playoffs next year, are we talking about the Rams the exact same way as this year? Or is it like what we thought this year might turn into, which is just time to blow it up?
I don't think it's blowing it up to stretch when you have McVay. I think there is such thing as a competitor
who might retire. McVay could go at any minute too.
It is so crazy that he's just that volatile. Same with Donald, same with Stafford, that this could just all fall apart so quickly feels nuts.
Yeah. Now, I do think it's time to talk about the Cowboys, but
how about them?
Not going to lead with the Cowboys. I'm going to lead with the Packers because I don't think anybody's doing that. But like,
I don't think anyone's leading with the Packers and how good they've been.
I don't think,
and just
like their defense was bad for most of the year, but about week 8 on, that offense has been terrifying. Jordan Love's looked like a top 10 quarterback. They did it again. They have some kind of witchy juju that allows them to get, elite level quarterback talent at any and all times. And
I think you've just got to sit quarterbacks now. I think the new thing going forward is you just sit quarterbacks.
I guess. And they now have as many wins in the Cowboys' new stadium in the playoffs as the Cowboys do, 3-3. So that stinks for the Cowboys. Let's talk a little bit about the Packers. And the first thing is, as Kale alluded to, we'll just give game balls out as we talk about these games. Jordan Love game ball.
Jordan Love game ball. I'd almost give some laces to Aaron Jones, man. Like that was just an all around great performance. But in a weekend where the 2 first-year starters both won their games, I'm just pumped that we get to see this for the next 10 years. I'm pumped that Jordan Love is that dude. I'm pumped that CJ Stroud balled, but Jordan Love, man, looks special. Jordan Love is so good.
This was crazy. The way that he just didn't miss a throw the entire day, pretty much, in what was a really high pressure moment for a guy that, has been waiting this long to get his chance, and his team barely snuck into the playoffs, et cetera. 16-21 for 272, 3 touchdowns, 157 passer rating, basically just played a perfect game. And another, did you know that the Cowboys were 8-0 at home again this year, and the Packers were 4-5 on the road, and none of that mattered in the playoffs? Because
do you know this was the first Cowboys loss since they lost to Tom Brady and the Bucs week 1 of last year? The first
at home. Yeah.
Home loss.
So, I'm pretty sure they lost other games. Yes. First home.
Yeah, they went to the Super Bowl and then went undefeated until just now.
Agreed.
No, that was the first home loss for them in
16
months. Year and a half.
And I want to just jump into bashing them, but the Packers are going to go play the Niners. There's a non-zero chance that this Packers team is in the NFC Championship after the whole narrative was, can't get there with Rodgers anymore, rebuild mode. They even lost a couple games in December this year where things started to flip on them and, vibes weren't very good. But, man, vibes are really good now, even if they do lose this game. Not only do they get their guy, but they are set up very well for success. And NFC North is just going to be really fun to watch for a long time with them in it.
It is. They are. And I'm pumped. The defense woke up a little bit. I know we're gonna talk. You can't talk about how good the Packers defense played without slandering the Cowboys, because straight up Dak just got broken. They punted that first drive and CD and Dak ran at each other's throats, and the pick six was just there were errant throws by a quarterback that is such a great manager of the game. I phrase that like that because I don't want to call him a game manager, because I think he's a legitimately talented quarterback that's 7 to 10 in the league, which in the with all the good young quarterback talent we have right now, I'd say is pretty good. But yeah, this is the youngest team in football. At this point, LaFleur is not getting nearly enough credit for just how good of a job that he's doing with his team, especially a team this young, a team that was really screwing up in all facets of the game early in the season, and just when you finally it took them half a year to kind of get it all in their system and figure it out. But once it was there, that was awesome. This is a legitimately, and it doesn't really matter what happens in San Francisco, I think, either. It's just about this. It's just about making the statement that we have arrived, and just going with just putting it all out there and making that big of a statement. I don't care what happens this year. You're set for the next half decade. LaFleur is going to be one of the longest tenured coaches in football at this rate if he keeps this up.
Isn't it just brutal the way like history continues to repeat itself? And that's from the Packers angle of this. That's from the Cowboys angle of this. I'm even going to throw like a weird ricochet shot at the Chicago Bears out of all this, because as you're watching the Packers, there's literally like TikToks of Bears fans like start to finish watching that game, just like preying on the Packers downfall and being so just crestfallen at how good Love looked and how they're just, doomed again. Meanwhile, the Bears are firing everyone on their staff except the head coach and just thinking that's somehow going to work out for them. Like things really just don't change sometimes in this league. And this game was like the most all-encompassing, example of that I think you could possibly find.
If we're doing teams that don't change, I'm really gonna throw a hard stray, a hard ricochet out here. Like the Saints are doing that, dude. Like, that's the dumbest thing.
Double ricochet.
The Saints just fired their offensive coordinator. Jackson, do you know how long Pete Carmichael was the offensive coordinator for the Saints?
8 years.
2009, Jackson. Do you know how long Dennis Allen's been with the Saints? In some capacity has been the DC since 2015. And then like between 2005 and 2011 was there in some capacity for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Before becoming the DC again.
In between there somewhere just was the worst Raiders coach out of a string of terrible Raiders coaches and then went on back.
Like this is a bad franchise. Whatever. We are not talking about a team
No.
Totally irrelevant. I just wrote a thing on it today where I was just like, how do you keep doing this? What's going on?
I have no good things to say about the Saints, so don't try to pressure me into it. I don't have many good things to say about the Cowboys either. I think it's finally time to get bashing because yikes.
Can I throw out like we can do the Dak thing. Like I'd love to do the Dak thing. I'd love to break down Dak with you. I'd love to break down Mike McCarthy with you. While it's still top of mind for me, I did want to throw out a Dan Quinn nugget. Dan Quinn has been great this season at going on the fly where, Leighton Vander Esch goes out. They're able to recover slightly. You lose Trey Diggs in practice, and Deron Bland is breaking pick six records, and Stephon Gilmore is like close to Patriot Stephon Gilmore again. The time in and time out, Dan Quinn has been able to make this Cowboys team work, except for in the Packers game. I wanted to throw this little PFF nugget out there. The Packers run a ton of 12 personnel. The Cowboys, because of how thin they are at linebacker, under Dan Quinn, respond to 12 personnel with nickel. They bring an extra corner onto the field. LaFleur and the Packers then say, oh, you're going to throw an extra corner at us? We're going to take the size advantage from going in a big set and you going small, and we're just going to run the ball. And then Dan Quinn sees that and goes, all right, Aaron Jones, running for a lot of yards, doing a lot of work, and you see that in the whole first drive. And instead of making a halftime adjustment where you figure something out, Dan Quinn then runs nickel against 12 personnel on 78% of snaps and just keeps letting it happen to him. That is lack of adjustment, and that is a problem. Packers, finished with a great rushing day. Whatever, I don't need to get that far into it, but 21 carries, 118 yards, 3 touchdowns for Aaron Jones. Love to go back and see how many of those are nickel personnel, those touchdowns. But, just the kind of thing this Cowboys team did. where it was just like, Dan Quinn couldn't really run man against the Packers and kept running man, and the Packers passed all over them. Dan Quinn not recognizing the mismatch in the run game and just allowing Aaron Jones to completely take over the game. Mike McCarthy running one of the most milquetoast offenses in the league, or Dak Prescott recognizing that, like, hey, I can't get it to CD right now. I'm not going to keep trying to get it to CD, despite the fact that in the second half of the year, he had something like a 40% target share. Like, this is a bad Packers defense, and you allowed them to, like, you allowed yourselves to get beat by that bad Packers defense, not the other way around.
The Dan Quinn bit of it is the part that, like, most intrigues me, in a sense of he was like widely considered as one of the top head coaching candidates, and now he has this one blip on his radar. And in my mind, I'm saying that shouldn't be disqualifying, but at the same time, like, I know another defensive coordinator who showed terribly in his last DC outing before he got named a head coach. You know what his name was? It was Matt Patricia. So not feeling great about,
don't do that.
If I'm the Seahawks bringing in Dan Quinn.
Don't do that.
I don't want to be like,
that's got a special stink on him. That's got a special Belichick stink on it. You can't do that.
I don't disagree. The other one's Jonathan Gannon. His defense gets torched and he gets a head coaching job. So jury is still out there.
He's doing okay there. Like,
what else? You didn't expect good results this year.
Yeah, you have.
At least we got that one right. At least they were bad. They still beat the Matt Patricia's team at the end of the season, so there's hope yet. Brief Dak stuff, and just like final notes on the Cowboys. All I had was just, I think you have to run it back with Dak, obviously, but that hurt because, like, this was the closest he's ever going to have to an MVP season. You know, the guy just turned 30. You know, the weapons are good now. Are they going to continue to be good for a long time? Are they going to lock up CD? Are they going to be able to lock up Ferguson? Don't 100% know, but this felt like the best chance they've had in the Dak era, even more so than like Dak's rookie year with rookie Zeke and that Packers loss that also was haunting. Like, this one really felt like they, at bare minimum, should have made the conference championship. And it just makes you wonder, like, what's Dak's ceiling with this team? Like, can you trust Dak to even take you to a conference championship, let alone a Super Bowl win, if this wasn't the year? And, especially given how bad he looked in trying to do so.
It's not like, also they will have Ferguson, which is good. Ferguson is in year 2 of a 4-year rookie deal. So
yeah,
Ferguson,
I'm more so thinking the timeline of like when Dak is up for his new contract in 2 years. Like, there's
we're talking about extension with Dak, and I think that's going to be interesting. Jerry Jones spent a lot of time saying, like, I'm not talking about anything now, but it's something on the horizon. What I would argue is Dak is awesome. Dak is a very good quarterback, and there's a reason he keeps – or there's a reason he put himself in MVP conversation this year, and he keeps leading the Cowboys to really strong records every year. Like, you keep finishing near the top of the NFC. You keep competing for division titles in one of the toughest divisions in football. And you keep flaming out in the playoffs. You keep losing to the really good opponents. Just take the pressure off of Dak. Like, Dak, you can win with, and sometimes you can win because of. It's really important to beat really good teams or really bad teams and beat them handily and do your job. But give them a little bit of help against the big guys. Give them a little bit of help against the really good teams. There's no shame in that. It's why Mike McCarthy shouldn't be the head coach, because he doesn't do that. He just puts it all in Dak's hands. And there was some valid criticism of Dak saying, like, he freaks out a bit when he gets off his first read. That's fine. Like, it's not great, but like it's manageable. And you got to be able to handle that. And you got to be able to work with that. So just like maybe it's running some PRO stuff. Maybe it's running some single look plays with some additional distraction in there and getting a little bit creative to give one look, show another, and try and scheme players open for single or two look reads. But give him a little bit of creative play calling help here. Don't put it all in his hands. I think this team is absolutely good enough to win if they just had a stronger mind at the table.
And they fired Kellen Moore last offseason, and Mike McCarthy reassumed play calling duties. So I just don't get how
objectively that was what's crazy is that's a right move, and they're still wrong in how they're pursuing this.
Right. And I cannot believe that winning one game in the playoffs wasn't the difference between McCarthy keeping and not keeping his job this year. I thought that if there was anything we could count on, it was that the regular season did not matter to the Cowboys. It was all about what happens when they get to the playoffs that would determine whether or not McCarthy stayed the head coach. And I guess it wasn't. So, there you go.
Jerry Jones called this the most painful loss of the most painful playoff loss ever. And how does that I'm not going to call for a man's job because I don't know how many more jobs Mike McCarthy would get if he lost this, because someone pointed this out.
Mike McCarthy's got enough money. He's okay.
There are I think there's 4 or 5 straight Cowboys head coaches that have been fired and never gotten another job. So McCarthy would likely be done if this rule holds. At least as a head coach.
You know why? Because the Cowboys keep all their head coaches forever. Jason Garrett was there almost a decade.
They do get a crazy runway. And Jason Garrett actually, hearing him talk that night about the whole procedure where it's Jerry Jones is going to be an absolute great owner and there for his team when he set in the 24 hours, 48 hours after this game, and he's going to console them and he's going to mourn, and then he's going to be a businessman. Listening to him talk. I do not enjoy his coverage on NBC often, but in the one time that he knows exactly
it's appropriate that he's here for once.
Yeah,
go off, King. Weird week for NBC. I'll actually use that as a transition for NBC because NBC desecrated NFL football by putting it on Peacock. And then the tone of their coverage the next day, they're thank you, Peacock montage, historic night for America. Way to go, us, pat yourself on the back thing. It was very odd. And obviously the game is more important here, but it played out every bit as strangely, and what else do you think was going to happen? They still had the lowest viewership of any of the games this weekend, which would not have happened if you didn't put it on Peacock. So you were just trying to make a quick buck. What's the point of any of this is my main question. Why do we need playoff football on Peacock that nobody was asking for?
It's just bad that it's just going to lead to more. This was a technically positive case study in doing this, and I just wish it's crazy that it would ever come to this. But I'd almost prefer it was a pay-per-view model. And it's so gross and grim to say that. But I wish it was just Peacock being hey, man, we get it. We are doing this for a cash grab. Give us $5 and you can watch this game. This is an on-demand movie. On-demand movies on Apple are to rent are $3 now, $4. They are not that expensive unless you're watching brand new broadcast. So just give us a whittle buy-in, because you're now banking on 20% of people forgetting to renew their Peacock subscription. So your 23 million views for what is it, $8 a month. then tax on to an extra, $40 million if you're just totally doing it by gross. And that's you're banking on, that's bad. And I don't like that model, and I don't like that more teams and streaming services will, advocate for that model going forward.
It reminds me of when people take the side of ownership in either CBA negotiations or like player contract negotiations, and it happens all the time in baseball where, teams stick up for these cheapo owners or just the entire group of owners in a league as a whole. And it's like, why do you need to have the billionaire execs backs? Like they are doing fine for themselves. And in this case, it's why are these people on the internet like defending the whole, like, just pay the $5 for Peacock, whatever. Like it's the price of a Starbucks coffee. Like just do it, whatever. It's like, well, how much? I think we all recognize that it's not the $8. It's the how much more money do these, billionaire TV execs really need? Like, why do they need to do this? There's just simply no reason. And they paint it as a huge success, and they're absolutely going to do it again. And it just irks me because it's so like the imbalance in the media industry between like the 99% of people who like work hard on the daily to make things happen, make broadcasts happen, and then just the people at the top who are just, hey, let's make it on Peacock so we can, make a couple extra billy on our year-end bonuses is just really excruciating.
I don't want more teams to do it, like, or more streaming services to do it. I would take I don't mind getting NBA Pass through YouTube TV, or I don't mind getting the Sunday Ticket through YouTube TV, because that is a service, tax deductible service for me, that I can it is something gratuitous. It is something to see more than I am ever meant to see as a fan. That one of those things where it's like if you went back in time and you showed this to a caveman, his brain would melt. Or showed this to if you showed the quad box to Shakespeare, he'd lose his mind. But if I don't like doing it for individual events that are always on television, that are always that should be universal.
That's the difference here, because we know okay, Sunday Ticket's coming to YouTube TV, and we already we're used to paying X amount for Sunday Ticket every year, etc. But this was sprung on us. Then,
Thursday Night Football, I don't even mind that much, in the sense that
again, season long thing, and you know how it works.
Season long, the games are usually bad, and the majority, I wouldn't say the majority, but enough people have Amazon subscriptions where Prime is free. So it's a smaller barrier to entry.
You also get enough other utility out of a Prime subscription. There's the entire consumer side of Amazon, but you're getting Peacock. The only other content you're getting is other NBC stuff. And some people don't like The Office as much as I do, or 30 Rock. And
I was gonna say
have to be bought into NBC for it.
I was gonna say I would buy Chiefs Dolphins for 30 Rock, but I will never get over the fact that at some point in its life cycle, still very far off from Office's peak heyday, toward the point of Office exhaustion, NBC set up the Peacock pay model around how much Office you could watch. But let's talk about the game that was actually on Peacock, because I rewatched that, and Dolphins are going to be fine, man. Dolphins are good. Dolphins are set. I'm
That's
fine.
What you came away with?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't. I came away with the Dolphins are going to win double-digit games in the regular season for a while.
You're going to call it? You think the Dolphins are AFC Cowboys?
It's not even a Cowboys thing. It's they're a soft team. They're a speed and flash regular season team. And I hate to be a boomer here, but playoff football is slug it out, cold weather, hat on hat football. And the Dolphins don't win like that. And Tua is not good enough to win games like that with his arm. Like they need too many things to go right for it to work out for the entirety of a playoff run. That's what I came away from this game thinking.
I think the defense. I think if you had, the thing with this game is, I haven't looked at box scores to check for blitz rates and stuff like that. Like premium box scores, but with Miami losing both Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb and being down straight up like your top 3 edge rushers on the year is pretty crazy and is not a thing to, stick your nose up at. So like defensively, they were very much compromised, and I think that played a big part in the Chiefs side of things. And this game was, I think, closer than box score let on. But I straight up just think this was a weather thing. And there was some stat going around that like Tua's like 6-20 in games below 70 degrees. Like and that's not like cold weather. That's below 70 degrees.
0-11, I believe now in 40 or below.
Yeah, something like that. But this game was straight up like our field is -30. This is the third coldest game in NFL history. This field is frozen. You cannot run the out routes that this offense is compromised on. And is it part of Mike McDaniel's game plan to say, hey, it might be a little chilly and you might not be able to pivot. We got to figure something out. Yeah. Mike McDaniel, I think, has a little bit of a tough time adjusting. It happened last year where they couldn't handle jams. They couldn't handle post-snap coverage transitions, and they couldn't handle blitzing by Tua. And I think some of it we've obviously chalked up to concussion stuff and Tua's ability to process. But Tua's like always just been bad after the snap. This year, with the little cheetah motions, with the little short route, get Tyreek up to speed and go. Spagnuolo in Germany used that as like, oh, that's when the snap is coming. Now I'll change my coverage over top. Or that's when the snap is coming. Now I can bring my corner over for a blitz. Like he used that as like, oh, that's just snap timing. And having that edge and not recognizing that and also not adjusting different offensive things and also not being able to like run the ball in this weather when you're like not able to run the ball because your entire pass offense is compromised. Those are all big issues and those all add up. And I think McDaniel has to, as a second-year play caller or second-year head coach, just learn the wrinkles a little bit better. Like not just be the biggest innovator in football, someone that even his former mentor like will borrow off of, but he's just got to learn to keep having rabbits in his hat. Like I can't think of another thing. He's just got to have another counter.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it all in a sense that like this was not like a job jeopardizing loss for Mike McDaniel. I think everyone thinks very highly of Mike McDaniel, and there probably weren't many situations in which they win a game like this, especially in -7 with -30 wind chill, but there's still like a lot of growth that needs to happen personally and, organization wide. And I just keep coming back to Tua as well, man. Like I am not sold that there's a world where Tua can win a Super Bowl. Like I'm just not. And I'm not saying that to like completely knock Tua because he's already been, I think, better as a pro. And especially after the first couple of years where a lot of people were really down on him, I think he's rejuvenated his career and been better than most people think. And I think he can be a great regular season quarterback. And I think they've built an offense that works perfectly around his talents, but like, give me Brock Purdy in the postseason over Tua. Give me Trevor Lawrence in the postseason over Tua. Maybe give me Anthony Richardson in the postseason over Tua. I've yet to see that yet.
That's a crazy thing to say, Jackson. You've seen him for 5 games.
I don't know yet. I'm just saying. Like, that's why I said maybe. I'm not saying definitely. But, like, there's a very limited ceiling with Tua that I feel confident in saying now, having watched him for a couple of years.
Jackson, I like getting takes off as much as the next guy. You can't say you would watch Anthony Richardson when he has like 6 touchdowns ever.
Look, I said maybe. I'm just saying, like, what are we going to get out of Anthony Richardson next year? It might be really good. It might also be Trey Lance 2.0. We just don't know yet. It's the biggest question mark in the sport right now.
Anthony Richardson played games.
He looked pretty good in some of them, but he also couldn't stay on the field. He got hurt in every game he played. So
the two thing for me is, like, I don't know what you give him. Like, Daniel Jones feels like a crazy contract, but 2 is also like top 2 in EPA per play in the last 2 seasons. Like, he's so genuinely good at the top. I'd straight up just, like, I don't know if they're in the Milroe camp. I don't know if they're in, like, the Joe Milton camp. I don't know if they're in the room for even Jordan Travis. Like, just find a guy, take him, sit him down, and be like, hey, you're sitting. You're sitting for a year. You might sit for 2 years. But you're next up, and you're going to learn this. Because McDaniel runs a complicated offense with a lot of wrinkles. And Tyreek's not getting younger. Like, he said the second this Dolphins deal is up, he's retiring. Like, he's retiring on top. Not wrong. Speed receivers don't exactly age gracefully. But McDaniel's going to be here for a while.
Right.
You've got to figure out some way to maximize this window. You've got to figure out some way to make this offense the most potent one in the NFL, the league-defining offense, work. Because the fact that I know one of those games was started by Skylar Thompson, but the fact that you are 0-2 in the playoffs and losing both games in pretty damning fashion should say something about you. Like, it's a bit of an indictment to be this good in the regular season. It's the same thing with the Cowboys. It's crazy to be this good in the regular season and this bad against, like, the second you get to the postseason against good teams.
No, there is more organizational symmetry there than I maybe would have said at the beginning of this discussion, but there's definitely that symmetry. And I think the other piece of it is just like, you get a pass for last season for sure, but what about this season? You know, like, they were the 1 seed for a while, and they lost the division at the end, and they lost, they got smoked by Baltimore, and then they lost a home game against the Bills where, like, that should be, the season defining moment, and they just kind of didn't show up in the second half, and McDaniel refused to run the ball when it was working. So, like,
I don't even, like, I want to say it's the game plan of this game, like, sorry, I want to give them a pass because it was this game and how uniquely bad the field situation was to just break this offense.
Yeah.
But like you just said, it was in their hands.
Yeah, I'm giving them a pass for this game, but not for the month before this game.
But you drop, like, this team lost to the Titans.
Sure did.
Like, this team?
Let's not forget that. That was literally the only time in my adult life that I've ever turned off a game and come back to find out that, like, the unthinkable happened and the team that I was sure was winning lost. That was the first time that's happened to me as,
and that's the difference. That's the difference between hosting this game in Miami where you would have played the Steelers.
Yeah.
Like, you would have smoked the Steelers.
Yeah.
Imagine you had to play the Steelers and then you're sending Buffalo to Arrowhead to play in that. Like it's different offenses and it's more vertical, so you might be able to get like a little bit more done. Like maybe still a Khalil Shakir moment. Maybe James Cook does a little bit better than Raheem Mostert. But like it's an objectively better situation. And you get to play a slightly more beat up Kansas City Chiefs team this round. And you get a little bit more advantage. You get
again
field advantage.
Yeah. They should have had 2 home games. They got 0, and they had to go to like whatever the opposite of home field advantage is, like the polar opposite, emphasis on like polar in the Arctic sense. Like this was unbelievable, the difference between playing 2 games in Miami and having to go to Arrowhead in the coldest game of, our lifetimes. So ridiculous. Anyway, they got a lot to worry about.
Yeah, I think on the Chiefs because we just shit on Miami for 20 minutes.
I think my only Chiefs thing was like, wow, Rashee Rice is awesome. Does that like fix all the things we've been worried about for them for the rest of the season? No, but he's awesome. And I think they still have, a very solid chance of, continuing the cycle against Buffalo.
I think I found it interesting. I know it's weather, and I know at some point it got down to stalling. I found it very interesting that Isaiah Pacheco set a career high in rushes. Like the fact that this is the most reliant they've ever been on just a running back is very impressive. And Pacheco's good. But like the fact that they were willing to just go straight up bell cow and just be like, you are carrying this ball for a career high 24 times. He's had more than 20 carries twice in his career once this year. He hasn't had 20 carries since the Chiefs played the Jets and had to run the clock out.
It's crazy that they even ran 75 plays on offense in this game because Mahomes also threw 41 times. Like you would have thought they had more than 26 points.
It's crazy they threw 41 times in this.
Yeah. No, it's pretty.
I guess a lot of those were throwaways.
Yeah, a lot of throwaways. Just a sloppy football game with like one real big standout performer in Rice, who I think if we're talking about a Chiefs win over the Bills, it's going to be a very similar Rice stat line because he's the offense right now. He's the key to everything. Obviously, Pacheco can be good. Obviously, Mahomes is the engine that makes it tick. Obviously, Kelsey's a future Hall of Famer, but Rashee Rice is probably the most important skill player left in these playoffs to me right now, or at least like the most X factor skill position player.
It's gonna be weird. I think I'm very curious to go back and look at Chiefs Bills from this year and see who was on Rashee Rice because I don't know who. Like Rashee Rice obviously didn't have the assignment or the name value of of Rashee Rice and like he didn't have that pedigree and like responsibility on this roster yet. He hadn't earned 12 catches a game.
Yeah. At the time, you're still thinking like the only way they win is if Kelsey goes nuts against us.
But I'm just really curious to see like who had that assignment against the Bills last time. Who is taking this on? Because we just talked about how many corners are injured for the Bills right now. And even like getting Rasul Douglas is a big depth piece, but like, even having him back in the fold, if he's able to play, like huge, but like, I don't know if you're throwing him on Rashee Rice. I don't know if you're giving him wide receiver 1 assignment. I don't know who's Kaiir Elam. Like,
Kaiir Elam was getting picked on in that Steelers game, and then all of a sudden comes up with the end zone pick. And I don't think Mahomes is throwing that same ball that Rudolph did. So I'm very curious to see whether it's. I mean, I don't think he's definitely not.
That's the first time that Patrick Mahomes and Mason Rudolph have been named to the same.
Well, there's no way they're putting him on an island with Rashee Rice in this game. Like that's not a thing you can do. But is he even drawing any coverage of him? Is he like, getting bracket help, or is he guarding MVS and just like saying you get no help on MVS? So that's all a piece of the puzzle. Like
did Hyde get banged up
looking shaky too? What's that?
Did Hyde get banged up in the Steelers game too?
I don't think he got banged up he has been banged up and practiced in a limited capacity today. I believe I saw in that same injury report. And I think it's still the neck injury. And apparently Josh Allen also has a neck injury that he's like limited practicing with right now. So Bills are just
neck injury from carrying this team.
Yeah. I was about to not even like make a joke, but just like, their ambulance, what it looks like. And, they've just been having to keep that thing nearby for far too often this season. So hopefully that injury streak does not continue for the Bills because it's been really rough. And I think that's the game everyone's most excited about. And I don't want to see it marred by injury.
You are not excited for Packers Niners just out of morbid curiosity?
I'm excited for all of them.
I am.
I'm really excited for all of them.
It's going to be a good weekend.
Let's get excited about the last game of the weekend. By doing so, let's talk about the Houston Texans.
Fully forgot about that game. Fully forgot.
Right. And the way I was about to say it was, I think the Browns are like kind of the winners of the losers because everyone has just forgotten about how much of a dud the Cleveland Browns were in this game and just didn't show up and had a chance, like were down first by 3 and then down by 10 and then just completely fell apart. And I know that the Joe Flacco clock strikes midnight thing had to happen at some point, but I think they're big winners in, the super wild card weekend format and the Bills game getting kicked to Monday because everyone just forgot how terrible they were in that game and how they had legitimate high hopes of going to maybe a conference championship or more, and instead were waxed from the start by, a team that people were taking fairly lightly, even with their star rookie quarterback.
I don't know. Someone had phrased this as like the Browns were we do what we do defense and you've got to play against us. And they just never adjusted to how good Houston was or how well Houston could attack the 3 high, constant shift, get pressure with 4 defense. I'm so impressed with Stroud. I know he didn't get a good PFF grade because he made some risky throws. And
sorry, man. Just not good. He didn't get a good PFF grade.
I know, no, that was just like a big talking point. I recognize the value of PFF grades.
Also, 70-something is still good.
It's good, yeah.
Especially in a small sample size. Like the difference between 78 and 85 is one throw.
Also, it was like 78. It was like practically 80.
Yeah. People were just comparing it to Jordan Love, who got like a 94 PFF grade. And they had the same exact box score stats.
Yeah, I'm not gonna rehash a weird thing, but he made a couple risky throws he got away with. They really love to pump those turnover worthy plays in there, even if they don't result in turnovers. But this is just a damn good team. This is just a really damn good team. What DeMeco Ryans has been able to do with this defense. Corey's been able to build. I get Flacco kind of crumbled, and I get, when Flacco throws deep balls, they are literally either touchdowns or pick sixes and no in between. But just pure reclamation. It's similar to Detroit, where the guy in the building who isn't the chaplain who used to work for the Patriots, whose name I'm forgetting, and maybe you can drop it for me. Jack Easter. No, not the actual chaplain. The guy, Nick Caserio. Nick Caserio, as GM, has done a fantastic job building this team out and doing really with nothing. Will Anderson, very good player. We're suckers for Jalen Petre. We're Derek Stingley stands here. But Desmond King, Blake Cashman, we've got guys on this team that I have never heard of. His team is down Jonathan Grenard, and the fact that Jonathan Grenard was one of the best edge rushers on this team is a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem that we're talking about the loss of Jonathan Grenard being like, oh no.
But like it's a pretty empty it's a pretty limited secondary. It's a one of those defenses with not a ton of name recognition, and they crushed. They completely ate up a Browns rushing attack that just couldn't do anything against this front seven. Shut down Amari Cooper, which tough to do. Amari Cooper has been elite all year, and the fact that you hold him to 459, the fact that he only got 5 targets is something else. Just a fantastic job. This isn't even talking about a crazy Stroud performance, a real like hard-nosed Devin Singletary run game. Even if Bobby Slowick hasn't really been able – Bobby Slowick's been awesome this year and has produced – like when you're getting Brevin Jordan – I guess it's a breakout run, but when you're getting Brevin Jordan 76-yard touchdowns,
yeah,
just absolutely naked. I actually was – no, Schultz was the naked one. Schultz was the guy who looks like he was fielding a punt. He was so
correct. And Jordan was the one where it was like, oh, he's really just going to keep going. Oh, nobody's going to stop him. Oh, yeah. Okay, fine.
Well, but like when you're scheming Dalton Schultz that open, you're doing a very good job. Slowick hasn't been able to really figure out the run half of the equation. Yeah. But like what he's been able to do with guys like Nico Collins, 1-year deals on Dalton Schultz, John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, the fact that Robert Woods, who was supposed to be a wide receiver too, is such a bust, and you've now had to completely move off of him to the point where you're taking Damiere Byrd practice squad flyers.
Well, and you lost Tank Dell, which
I know you lost Tank Dell. Yeah, you did lose Tank Dell, but I'm just saying, like the fact that this group is Nico Collins and names and you're putting 45 on the board is nuts.
Yeah. The 2 pick sixes helped, and I will get my defensive game ball
CJ Stroud 3 touchdowns is crazy. That's
I will get my defensive game ball briefly out of the way. Steven Nelson, because I think that was like the biggest momentum play of the entire first round, and it will be somewhat forgotten. But 82-yard return completely changed the outlook of the game. Christian Harris then gets one on the next drive, and it's just a full-on party. That was a really fun-looking environment. I know that like Houston is not, by any means a vaunted fan base, and they'll be doomed to that Saturday early window anytime they host a playoff game. But that looked like a fun place to be on Saturday. And then the other thing I would say about it is on the flip side of all this, beware putting too much confidence in the Texans going into round 2. I will fully admit that's like a 2009 Bill Simmons Grantland take that I'm like fully stealing here, where it's like the rules of playoff, not just playoff gambling, but like, just predicting the playoffs. Beware of like the team that looked really good in the first round, especially against Joe Flacco. So with all this positivity about the Texans being said, I do feel quite confident that the run ends here.
Mark Andrews might play.
Mark Andrews is a full participant in practice today. Yeah. Like what?
He's day to day.
Yeah.
The thing that I've got with that is nothing changed about the defense. Like CJ Stroud was able to eat on a defense that at one point was playing at historic pace. Ended up finishing second best in the league, but you completely annihilated a really good Cleveland Browns defense, and were able to render Myles Garrett a bit of a no-show, and able to handle it. Guys like JOK and Greg Newsome and elite pass rush, keeping Stroud completely clean. We're completely able to nullify an elite Browns defense. And they're going against an even better Ravens defense.
Right.
So nice draw. The fact that you will likely have, if you win this game, like for CJ Stroud to win a Super Bowl, it would likely be the most, I'd say, difficult playoff run, not just being a like a walk-in 4 seed, but just playing the number 2 defense by DVOA, the number 1 defense by DVOA, one more top 10 defense by DVOA in either the Chiefs or Bills, and then I think the 3 DVOA team in what would be odds on the Niners.
Yeah.
And even if it's not the Niners, the Lions are really high up there, and the only way you don't is if the Packers make it. Like, you're playing a very good defense pretty much no matter what. And it would be so it would be 2, then 1, then either 7 or 12. Bills are 12.
Soft. Easy.
But they're 9 in pass. So it's another top 10 pass defense. And then let's just pretend the Niners make it. Then you're playing 1, 2, 4, and 12 or 7. That's a crazy run.
It would be crazy. I kind of want to jump into next round, and we got to get through a little more, You want to just like rapid fire? We've talked about every aspect of every one of these games. We just like 1 sentence game balls, rapid fire, fastest we've ever done game balls. Yeah, well, we did offense already, Stroud and Love. We did.
I didn't say Stroud got a game ball, but Stroud got a game ball.
Yeah, we did my defense. Your defense is
Darnell Savage, the other big important pick 6 of the week in Green Bay, the thing that absolutely broke the Cowboys. Deserves recognition.
Agreed. Special teams. Mine's Michael Badgley. Mostly just for 1 kick, but it was a really big kick. It ended up being the winning scoring margin, and he was 6 for 14 in his career on kicks of 50-plus yards. Absolutely nailed a 54-yarder in this game. NFL average is like 55%, so 6 for 14 was way below that, and he wasn't on the team until December. So Michael Badgley stepping up in the big moments. The Lions have had kicker problems for a while. Maybe this guy can go on a nice little playoff run and make you forget about him.
Yeah, that would be sick. That would be sick to just not ever have to worry about kicker again. And the fact that you were able to win on that, good on you. Mind game ball in doing your job. Chase McLaughlin, 3 for 3 field goals, longest to 54, 3 for 3 extra point. That's 12 points. That's more than the Eagles score. We did it. Tampa Bay, you have a kicker.
Tampa Bay.
Fire the cannons.
Why are Aaron Judge and Anthony Volpe in a box at the Bucs game? I don't get that. Whatever. Water under the bridge.
Jeter, Tampa.
Jeter, Tampa. What does Jeter have to do with Tampa?
1, didn't he have Rays stakes, and 2.
No, he was the GM of the Marlins.
He let Brady have his house at one point.
True.
Tampa.
I think that's okay. Fair enough. The Yankees used to have spring training down in Tampa, so I guess there's the Jeter connection. But I don't think Judge has anything to do with Jeter necessarily, apart from just their
like Yankees
captains. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Yankee spring training is in the Tampa area. So
dude, that's close.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's not for a month, but fair enough. Now, uniforms from this week. I got a pretty easy one because I've seen it so many times throughout my life, and it never fails, and it conjures up many awesome postseason memories for me. Des caught it, Kale? Cowboys, Packers.
Yeah, most like iconic of the weekend for sure. I
love that it's always the same, no matter if it's in Green Bay or Dallas. I love that when those two teams play each other, it's the same uniform matchup.
Yeah, that feels good. Mine, Detroit Rams. Just a lot of blue. Just a lot of blue. Strong uniforms both sides, but a lot of blue and a little yellow, and it just worked real well together.
I liked that game. I think that Rams uniform is my favorite Rams uniform. White jersey, yellow pants. They don't look as busy to me anymore as they used to. I guess my eyes have just adjusted to it, and they don't wear bone as much, which I know we've talked about bone plenty on this show before, but I tend to prefer when they're not going heavy on bone. And yeah, the white, yellow, blue helmet. shout out NFL uniforms on Twitter. He would call that the triple mismatch club, different color helmet, jersey, and pants. All very satisfying to me. So down for that one as a second best. Other decent options, but I'm good with that. Moving right along, I think we can just go head scratch and we'll stay on that game. You may go first.
Yeah, it's kind of just Sean McVay. He's got one weakness, and it's just timeout management. It's just purely clock management. I don't know if that's what hoisted by your own petard means, but I will say he was hoisted by his own petard.
You can say it. Absolutely.
Okay. It is what it means. It's kind of what it means. The phrase meaning is that a bomb maker is blown off the ground by his own bomb, hoisted by his own petard. But yeah, Sean McVay, this is another, like, I promise I watched more than one game this week because I literally did. We spent 2 hours talking about him. Sean McVay, the end of half sequence, you got the ball with, a minute left and you're not gunning it. You're not like ripping and raring to go for it down 17-21 when you've scored on 3 straight drives and you've got what I believe is 3 timeouts in your pocket and you're not trying something just to get into – I know you got a bad kicker, but just to get into range of something, make something work, that's bad. And then we get to the end of the game. And McVay has done the exact opposite thing, where he has burned through 2 timeouts with 13 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And you've got – I was saying this to Jackson. McVay's offense, you need time on the clock. It is a really motion-heavy offense. It is a really, with all the additional bells and whistles of the McVay offense that make it so potent because it scares defenses and makes you have to adjust and keeps you on your toes, and it's a good system to, run some trickeration with. It also eats up all 40 seconds of the play clock. So the fact that after the field goal drive to put it within 1, and then you get a Lions 3 and out, you now have the ball with 7 minutes and 18 seconds left to do something. And you run 6 plays. And you burn like a full 3 minutes off the clock. And the fact that, like, we can talk about the extra decision that Jackson wants to talk about the punt on 4th and 14 from the 44. It's a 61-yard field goal if you try it, and you've got a bad kicker. And I don't like the kicker. I don't trust a kicker in that situation. But you burn 3 minutes off the clock running 6 plays, and you don't at least try and hold it because you can't stop Detroit on the other side of that. That's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they got tricked into thinking that they could/were stopping Detroit. But I just think Detroit went into that final drive with a much different, more narrow focus than the previous couple, and they were starting to generate pass rush and whatever. But like the one David Montgomery run on first down, and all of a sudden it's just borderline over at that point. And then, of course, Campbell goes for the kill on 2nd and 9 with the pass to St. Brown. But it's like, as you kind of state, they worked it down to a point that was so late in the clock that, like, they didn't really have a great chance of getting the ball back. And if they did, there wasn't going to be much time anyway. So to me, it was like, why not try just another throw downfield to Puka on 4th and 14? Like, it's not really a different scenario if they don't get it. Like, they're just a little further up the field. But, like, who cares? Who cares if Detroit even goes and, kicks a field goal? Like, yeah, it hurts to have to go get a touchdown instead, but like the whole, they just didn't try, and then they never got another chance. So they, leaving that one play when, that one play may well have resulted in a first down and all of a sudden you win the game. Like that was worth at least trying for me. I was disappointed. Not that I think that it was like inexcusable, but like I would have tried it there.
Give it a shot, but like I don't know.
What are you so worried about?
You're just so potent. I think you're so potent on offense. I would have rather tried to go for the 4th and 14 than just kick a 6. Like just kick.
I never said go for 4th and 14. I wouldn't have tried the 60+ yard field goal.
Yeah, but like put yourself in a position to at least try and make something.
Yeah, I just don't get what they were so afraid of in that situation. Like why going forward on 4th down and not getting it would have been, the end of times, because it wouldn't have been. It would have been the exact same as punting it, just different part of the field. But you're still trying to prevent them from getting 2 first downs. That's it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Anyway, that's your head scratcher. Mine is, what the heck are the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point? It's less of like a singular moment from this game where the Steelers like won or lost, and more like I think this postseason berth meant exactly nothing. I think that the Steelers are no better for it than if they had gone 7-10 this year instead of 10-7. They do not have a quarterback. They have this feigned sense of superiority for the winning season streak, but they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. The Chargers have won a playoff game since then. The Seahawks, like a bunch of teams that, we haven't thought of as good in that time frame that have won a playoff game more recently than Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. You have George Pickens at the podium after the game, like saying that you can't beat the refs and the Bills in Buffalo. My dude, you fumbled the ball on your own 30-yard line and the Bills hit a 30-yard touchdown the next play. So, like, if there's anyone, how about a little bit of looking in the mirror for this one? And then, Mike Tomlin, you can talk about all that, pulling the, all right, we're not talking. I'm going to leave now. One question into the post game, like not talking about my contract, not talking about my future. Whatever, that's fine. I get that, but at the same time, maybe doesn't bode super well. But for me, it's the whole thing is like, what the heck is the vision? Because you took a quarterback in the first round 2 years ago, and that guy simply would not have taken them as far this season as their third stringer, who right about now damn near was like campaigning for Vivek Rama, whatever his name is, on the campaign trail. Ramaswamy. Yeah. That was almost Mason Rudolph's future. Still could be what he does. So, what are we doing here? What's the vision for the Pittsburgh Steelers long term? I have no clue.
I was dealing with my laptop malfunctioning for a bit, and I could still hear you. I don't know where the Vivek thing came from. I'm not gonna touch on it. I'm just gonna let it lie. What I think the Steelers are a quarterback away. Like I know there's some weird animosity there. This is a defense that was pretty solid for most of the year. This was a team that fired their offensive coordinator and got better offensively. This is a team that, like, at its core has an offense that can be managed by Mason Rudolph, and was unable to function with Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky at the helm. This is a team that's still coached by Mike Tomlin, who has never had a losing season and will be coached by Mike Tomlin in 2024, according to Mike Tomlin. So what I see is just a really strong young core that's going to probably hit on a crazy extra receiving talent this year late in the draft, because this draft is so deep with receiving talent, and this team is so good at developing receivers late. And, like, their 5th round receiver this year might as well be like a first in any other draft. But like the problem with this team will be quarterback driven until it's not, because the defense is solid, albeit aging. Losing TJ Watt for this game obviously hurts. You got to remember he's coming back. And then beyond that, like, defense is old, but like it's still good. You get some, extra replacement parts there. It doesn't seem like a ton of teams are defense needy in this draft, especially high up, so the Steelers can kind of manage to like probably get a pretty good talent there to, make some additional adjustments, and then you're really just a quarterback away. Like that's all this team is. And like the fact that they've been able to manage in the like toughest conference in football is a positive note. Like I know there's a lot of like, weird infighting. Tomlin had Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and Ben Roethlisberger on this team. Like this is nothing to him. It's bad. It's loud now because they're bad. But when you get a quarterback in the room, people are going to shut up. People are going to like Pickens is mad because he can't get the ball because no one can get the ball to him because they have 3 quarterbacks that are, 35 through 50 in the league or something. Like, right. I don't know. I think they're fine long term.
I'm interested. I mean, obviously, like being a quarterback away is like as bad as it can be in this sport. So I don't fully know what the fix is there, but at the same time, like I hear what you're saying. Like they do have more than I give them credit for, but it's just the vibe.
When you're a quarterback away and you're, the Jets, yeah, it sucks. When you're a quarterback away and still making the playoffs routinely, it doesn't hurt as much. Now, like you're the I'd say you're the Niners, not the Jets. Like you need a quarterback.
Oof, I don't know about that.
It's
how many playoff games have the Niners won since 2016? Like
no, you're pre-Garoppolo, not pre-Garoppolo Niners, but like the years the Niners were banged up, where it's like Nick Mullins is managing pretty well to throw to Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, and it is kind of cooking in that respect. But you're still competent. You're still doing something. It's just like I think it's a little bit better than being fully dire. Like if you it's the Jets where if you have league average quarterback play, you're a perennial playoff team. You just need a league average guy, and you've just had some real crap come through the door.
Yeah. I'll still say that's my Justin Fields team. That's the team that I'd be most interested to see him play for next year, because I think like you're not going to trade up in the draft. The only other candidates are like other free agents, Kirk Cousins. Like I would be most excited to see Fields there next year, because I think that's fun, and
it's not fun.
Why is that not fun?
It's if Bill Belichick doesn't go to Los Angeles, he goes to Atlanta, brings Fields with him, and they make the coolest team ever.
That's fun. Is that the coolest team ever? I'm struggling with that.
Fields, Bijan, Pitts, and Drake London having a top 10 or a first round guy at every position is not cool as hell with a Belichick defense.
I see the vision. I like the idea of Fields on the Steelers, who are already a playoff team, as you say. I would prefer let's see Justin Fields try to make a deep postseason run. I'm not saying the Falcons can't, but like it is the Falcons. Like if we're talking about like teams who have had a rough last decade, because we're kind of talking about the Steelers in that way at this point. The Falcons have had a rough last decade.
I don't think the Steelers won a championship in the last decade, haven't they?
No, their last one was
11?
08 was their last championship. They went in 2010 and lost, and their last win was 08.
Roethlisberger. What was Roethlisberger's other ring? Was that 03?
05.
05.
Seahawks.
Yes. Oh, no, 03 was Pats. I was trying to think of the one gap year, but that was Bucs, Raiders.
Correct.
You're right. Yeah. Let's get someone on the Steelers. Put Baker on the Steelers. Let's really cook.
We are
at the wall.
We are basically at the 2-hour mark. Rather than cheap seats, calling an audible this week, let's just do picks against the spread. I know we're not a gambling podcast, but like we'll use it as a 30-second way to talk about how we think these games are going to go. Houston +9 at Baltimore. Which side of that line would you lean towards?
It's a lot of points, and I would still lean Baltimore. But I think it's like Baltimore, like I'm saying that because I just think Baltimore wins by 10. Like I think it's very handy, and then like the Cowboys game, like the the Texans put on points late and make it semi-interesting, and then Baltimore is just like, nope, you're not making this fun. We're winning by 2 scores. And that is the conclusion of that game. So I'm taking Baltimore, and I'm taking them with a lot.
Here's the thing. So there's both of these 1 seed games are 9-point spreads, and I feel like they're destined to be one game where the favorite covers and one game where the underdog covers. And everything in my heart is telling me that this is the game where the underdog covers and the Niners, maybe it's just because I'm a Bay Area boy. My heart's telling me the Niners are the ones that are going to blow it out. So I'm going to go completely against my heart, and I'm going to say that the Ravens cover. And transitioning to the next game, I will say that somehow the Packers cover, and somehow that game is closer than everything in my being is telling me that game should be close, because somehow it just will be.
It's the opposite. Where I was going to say, I wanted to say Packers cover for just faith in Jordan Love and them being good. And then I realized, oh yeah, the Packers defense is bad. They're not playing against generational trauma, and the San Francisco 49ers are good off the bye. So it's San Francisco by like 19. We'll take the +9 or -9, but it's I think they like roll them.
All right, interesting. So he likes both of the big spreads to hit. I like just 1 and 1, just from a vibes perspective. Now that leads us to Tampa, 6.5-point underdogs at Detroit. Where would you lean there?
I just want to know when or if we get a bad Baker game, how that shakes out, and what Detroit looks like when they've got a 32-year-old monkey off their back. Like, will that be totally liberating, or is it like, got it, foot off gas? I don't think Campbell's the guy that's going to take foot off gas.
No, especially not in that building. That's the difference maker to me.
6.5 feels like a lot, though. I want to look at you give me yours because I'm very curious, but I want to look up Bucs scores.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm leaning to the Lions just based on like the charge in that building. I just think the Rams were better than the Bucs, and I think that was always going to be the tougher matchup. Like you can do stuff to disrupt Baker. I know he's been really, above what we, thought he was still capable of doing, but he's not Stafford right now. And as good as like Evans and Godwin are, I'd still take Nakua and Kupp probably over them at this juncture. So just in terms of like a 1-to-1 comparison for opponents, I feel like this is an easier game for the Lions. And I just don't think they'll be that let down, because even though the monkey's off the back, like now Detroit's getting greedy, and that crowd is going to be fierce. And there's still going to be like, I mean, when's the last time they were in a conference championship game? Like there's still plenty of tortured history for them to fall back on and get emotional about when they win. So
never won a Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah, I'll also take, God, I don't like picking. I've picked spreads of 9, 9, and 6.5.
Sure have.
And I don't know. This is annoying because it's they got smoked by Detroit 20-6 in week 6 after their bye. And they most recently, before that Eagles game, beat the Panthers 9-0. So, like, this isn't a good team.
Nope.
Grand scheme. Let's take Detroit in points. Why does this? I was so excited for this week, and now it's just like, yeah, blowout.
Give me all the points. Yeah, exactly. Finally, Kansas City, Buffalo. Any recent history there we should be aware of? Maybe. Kansas City +3 in Buffalo.
Kansas City +3. Because
Me too.
Just gonna make it crazy.
Me too.
There's no way this game isn't like a 2-to-1 point win. Unless like
could be overtime again. Reverse 13 seconds game.
I wasn't even gonna say overtime. I was just like, this is just gonna be like, with Sky Moore and Tony coming back, what if this is the week that Kansas City just breaks? Like, what if they just like had a good game plan? Like, Buffalo's hot now. People are downing Buffalo. This is straight up a pick'em game decided by, like, directed by home field advantage. I don't know how Mahomes is going to fare on the road in the playoffs. It's not like he's not really good on the road otherwise. Like, he's fine. Like, he's Patrick Mahomes, and the Buffalo Bills have a certain history with not being able to win games against Patrick Mahomes. But I don't know. Where, like, are you just straight up falling on he's somehow I for the hell of it wanted to look up home road splits for Patrick Mahomes. He is like markedly better on the road. Has had 2 more road games in his career, 2 extra wins, nearly the same record. An extra 4% completion percentage, an extra 19 touchdowns, only 3 more interceptions. So a better touchdown percentage, a better interception percentage, like a 6-point higher QB rate or passer rating, 8 fewer sacks. Weird, 8 fewer sacks, but somehow more yards. Averaging more yards per attempt, higher adjusted yards per attempt, like way better rusher. He's kind of insane on the road. So whatever. Chiefs plus 3.
Yeah, just because we haven't seen it yet doesn't mean he can't do it. So that's why I will continue to ride with Mahomes in this matchup until it doesn't happen. And I know full well that this could be the year it doesn't happen. That's why we play the games. Kale, I cannot wait for divisional round. Clearly, we can't wait because we just talked for 2 hours and 6 minutes about this entire postseason thing. But there's a lot more football.
I have one more game. Guess which of these Pro Football Reference nicknames is not Patrick Mahomes' nickname listed on Pro Football Reference? Grim Reaper, Showtime, Magic Man, The Musician, The Gunslinger, Fat Trick, or Mahomeboy.
I believe it's The Musician because I've seen that page before, and all of those sounded familiar but The Musician.
They're all there. They're all
there. Okay, good.
I knew
Fat Trick is
crazy. I did that. I thought you were just gonna say Fat Trick.
No, I knew that was there. And like Showtime isn't him. Gunslinger, there's like 5 other historic quarterbacks that have been referred to as like a gunslinger or the gunslinger.
Like, gunslinger is just like a general term.
Yeah, it's outrageous. But yeah, I mean, that all hilarious. Mahomeboy. It's all
Homeboy's great.
Musician is the most ridiculous one. I will say that. Thanks for pointing that out because I thought it was the one that you had made up, and now that I know it's there, it's going to infuriate me. So I'll stew on that until next pod.
Who was trying to coin a nickname mid broadcast from Mahomes?
Collinsworth.
Someone because Collinsworth didn't call that game. Jericho called 2 games on back-to-back nights. That was kind of crazy.
It's true. I thought you meant just in general. Jason Garrett had that game, by the way, the one that you're talking about.
Someone was like, it was not like Miracle Mahomes, but it was like something along those lines.
I think you're thinking of Jason Garrett. So, congrats to him for all his cultural relevance this week. Really impressive.
He had a week.
He had a week. Let's have a week, Kel. Let's have ourselves a week. Divisional round coming up. Can't wait for it. For now, we'll say goodbye. For Kale, I am Jackson, and we will see you next Tuesday.